this truly is a military operation when you think about it. Amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. This is a logistic operation. The tactics piece, that's the easy part, that's what we're doing. But the logistics is the key. When you open the aperture up into now the greater team and, JJ and Sullivan and Doc Vol, and of course the social media persons, those are those small team logistic personnel that in their ways are providing some great leadership. And while we have our ideas, they have the larger aperture on how this is going to take place to try to give us the maneuver space, if you will, to focus in on just running and our training.
Yeah, it's not easy, but the simplicity is built in. It's like any military campaign or operation. It might not be easy. The tactics might not be easy. The tasks themselves might not be easy, but it's as simplified as it possibly can be.
Is that much of it? That's not much of a change for you, right?
My name is Kerry Kite. I used to load bombs in the Air Force, and now I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. Through using the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to college, working hourly jobs to pay the bills, and freelancing my way into a career, I've studied what it takes to successfully transition from service to civilian, and that study has become a conversation. On this podcast, I speak to other veterans, successful artists, and entrepreneurs about their transition, what they did well, where they failed, what they learned, and most importantly, how they applied their skills.
Episode 141 continues our series with Team RWB in the Old Glory Ultra Relay, featuring Cole DeRosa, a retired infantry officer and elite athlete. We talk about the intensity, strategy, physical demands, and the leadership requirements to successfully complete this event with a team.
Welcome. This is Veteran Made.
Our merch store is live at store.veteranmadeproductions.com. Grab hats, t-shirts, and hoodies in both performance and tri-blend cotton fabrics. Use code VM-5OFF for 5% off your purchase. Veteran Made is also sponsored by GoPills, a military-grade nootropic that contributes to brain health over time. Use code VM15 at checkout for 15% off. I get my collagen protein from Bubs Naturals, where you can use code VETERANMADE, all one word, at checkout for 20% off your order. We're also proud to partner with True Made Foods, which makes condiments free from added sugar and sweetened with real foods. Use code VET at checkout for 15% off.
We love socks in this house. I get my wife new socks every Christmas. More importantly, we love American-grown and made socks. Use code VETERANMADE15 at rucksocks.com for 15% off.
And lastly, I end my day with Rack Out from Bravo Actual to maintain quality sleep, resulting in a well-rested body and mind. Use code VETERANMADE with a space between the words at checkout for 15% off your order. Enjoy the episode.
All right. Let's rock and roll. Good afternoon from the great state of Ohio for me. Good afternoon from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Cole DeRosa, welcome to Veteran Made.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to meet face to face back when Team RWB, the Old Glory Ultra Relay, had their very first meeting out at UHP, University of Health and Performance. But thanks for giving me the opportunity to connect with you and chat about Old Glory Ultra Relay.
Yeah, brother, it's great. Yeah, we were out there with the team back in December. You weren't able to make it, unfortunately. So I think it'll make for a fun conversation because we don't have the previous institutional knowledge of each other. Yeah. So it'll make it a little bit fun. Obviously, I've been doing a full series of interviews with the team and with the runners. And so I'm excited to bring you into the fold here on the podcast. Can you give us just a brief primer on who you are and where and when you served? And then we'll jump into some questions about ultras.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cole DeRosa, for people in my family, my actual first name is Jason, but I've always gone by my middle name, so Cole DeRosa. So some family members still like to call me Jason. But I just retired. I say just almost 10 months ago now, June 2024, with almost 29 years of active duty service. Started off enlisted, and then you're from the Marines, then Mustang. I went officer candidate school, worked my way all the way up, and retired as an 05, promotable for 06, but it was a good time to make that new transition and open the other chapter up. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, but as you know, and as all the listeners know, when you're in the military for a long period of time, it's really where you hang your hat. And so currently I'm hanging my hat in the Northern Virginia area near DC, where I retired from, but I will get back to Tampa, Florida, where I was at with SOCOM, because I really love the weather and the training opportunities all year round there. But that is me. I'm an infantry officer by trade. Combat arms guy, multiple deployments. Like, most of us were all GWAT, pretty much uniformed. And that's about it.
I love it. I love Florida too. I spent some time I spent some time in the Orlando area for
Oh
a
yeah.
few years, doing some follow-on schoolwork in film school there before heading out west, and then heading out in LA, and then heading to New York City, and then stops in Richmond,
Wow.
Virginia, and then now we're back home in Columbus, Ohio. So it is funny because I was only in for 4 years, enlisted in the Air Force, and did Texas for a year, and then England for
Oh yeah.
multiple deployments in TDYs in doing NATO stuff, which was awesome. And then when I got out, came back to Columbus, and then went to Ohio State, and then went to Full Sail in Orlando, and then did that whole thing. It's kind of funny how that PCS mindset just kind of stays with us even when we get out. I mean, you're
Yeah.
only 6 months out, but you're already talking about it. All right, I'm here, and now I'm going to go there, and yeah, great.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And my mindset's still the same, is not collect too much stuff while I'm here because, that next move ideally will be my last move. And I am looking forward to finally putting in roots and have an actual home of my own, and not one that I know I'm purchasing, going to rent out, and make that home, and make that new, if you will, the new objective, or the new, base camp. So exciting times, but still got probably 2 or 3 more years right here. That's okay.
Yeah, Rocker, you'll have a chance to. I said you're not going to collect a lot of stuff, but you'll probably keep collecting medals like you have behind you from all the races, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are trophies, so I'll take those. I got a bunch on the floor just from this weekend. In the past couple months, I ran out of room, and to be honest with you, when I put this up 2, 3 years ago, I didn't think I'd have this many elite or pro trophies. Just didn't think it was possible at 50 years old to still be competitive, in that elite pro class. So no, I'm fortunate for that.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I'd love to dive into that. I've been asking some of the other folks, like, hey, did you get into running and marathons and ultra stuff while you were in? You obviously did, with that many medals and trophies, having just retired 10 months ago. So talk us through when this kind of competitive excellence, right, for lack of a better word, at this level started for you. Obviously, when you're in the infantry and you're serving in a soft unit, you're going to be working at PT at a pretty high level. But in terms of doing it off duty and getting into this kind of thing, what was the genesis of that for you?
Yeah, I think first, if we back it up a little, much like most of the athletes probably on the OGR, or the Ogler Ultra Relay, we've been really competitive nature. It's in our DNA through and through, probably from school, high school, or even before that, all the way on. And it was the same way with me. I'll fast forward just into high school, not obviously 5 years old, playing baseball, but, high school, baseball, wrestled, soccer, also played on a German soccer team because I graduated in Stuttgart, Germany. So I had the opportunity to also play on a German team as well as my high school team. And then, moved into the military. And even in the military, as you know, there's always that competitive spirit. You either have it or you don't. So whether it's a PT test or physical fitness test, 15-mile or 12-mile road march, or it's on the range, or it's obstacle course, or confidence course, there are so many opportunities to excel fitness and compete against one another in the military. And, so staying physically fit and ready outside of combat ready was just in my DNA. So I was always looking at opportunities to put myself out there, compete at the best I could, which second, third order effects means you need to keep yourself at a high level of fitness. Moving on, obviously Ranger school, and then I went to Best Ranger competition, with his obviously a whole nother style competition. So if I fast forward into becoming a leader of men, say, an infantry officer starting out early as a platoon leader, as an INSO, we learned, hey, you lead from the front, be, know, do. And so that was very important to me as a prior enlisted. When I became an officer, is, walk the walk, talk the talk. So even though I was older than my peer officers, because I was prior enlisted for many years before I switched over, it was still important to me to lead by example. And that means you need to be able to run the fastest, most push-ups, pull-ups, carry the heaviest ruck, be at the front to show, those, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that are in my now platoon that I am going to lead eventually into combat, what right looks like and what a leader does from the front, and that's lead. So I think being competitive and being in a high state of readiness was just part of the job, and something that I held personal responsibility. And that continues all the way up the echelon to even, a captain as a company commander. Now I got a company that I am now trying to lead the front. Difference is I'm much older, so you have to now put in different kinds of work. PT alone is not going to do it. You got to do that time on your own. And so, continue to fast forward. As I moved up, up the rank, and I moved out of really leading soldiers, and I had a little more extra time in 2015 there in San Antonio. I was working for an organization, a military organization there. A guy said, "Hey, there is this thing I think you might be interested in called Spartan Race." And I had never heard of, back-to-back deployments, there's no time to really do things outside of just what was taking place on the job. And I said, okay, and it was nearby in Austin. And I said, let me check this out. And first thing I saw, a rope climb, sandbag carries, wall climbs, all these different things, modalities that we've been doing, whether it's, the Ranger School Confidence course or Special Forces Assessment Selection or there at 101st. So that appealed to me. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let me just go jump in it. It's the weekend. It's not going to affect day-to-day job. And I just jumped in the open, not the competitive heat, running shoes, didn't have the right gear. And long story short, I had a blast. And I saw that there was actually competitive heats, elite and age group. And I was like, you know what? I like this. I want to put in it. It gave me something because while I was training at that level, you're just training necessary to train. And when I found something like ops course racing or trail running, that gave a purpose or a direction to my current training so I could shape it for something, for an end state. So did the first one in 2015, was deployed. Long story short, 16 came back, and I already had on the calendar to knock out a couple more. And that's really where it started. It was weekend warrior stuff, things close to base, or if I could, on Friday at 1900, jump on a plane somewhere to go catch, in Houston or in Florida, race Saturday and Sunday, get on a flight Sunday night and back to base for work on Monday. That's how I was doing it for many years. And so really 2016 is when I really started focusing in on it and trying to dive deep. And and this year was my last weekend. I was in Atlanta, Georgia for a double race weekend for Spartan. And that was my 10th year in the sport.
That's awesome. Handful of things there that I want to touch on and get to, but I want to go back to childhood a little bit first, because this idea of playing a lot of different sports and developing your interest through a diverse range of opportunities that you either put in front of yourself or that parents put in front of you. I talked about this with Bill Savage a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, my dad always said, like, hey, try a bunch of different sports. You don't have to try the sports that I liked and that I excelled at. He was an elite athlete back in the day. And we try to do the same thing with our kids. My wife and I, she was also an elite athlete, played college golf. And so as we look at our 5-year-old now, we say, like, all right, you got to try a bunch of different stuff. You got to swim, you got to play soccer, you got to play T-ball, you got to try at least most of it once. And then that's where you're going to discover what you excel at, and more importantly, probably what you're interested in, which is then going to drive excellence, right? And so for you, you mentioned a handful of sports early that you played in life. As you think back now as a retired infantry officer, how do you view that and how it shaped you as a young kid, and then also looking at the kind of pipeline of your career, both professionally and then doing these races? Like, how did that foundation help you?
Yeah, I think it was critical in setting the foundation to one, teamwork, working as a team, being a member of a team. Granted, there was wrestling more, one-on-one, but you still had a team. But in, baseball, as well as in soccer, I mean, there's a huge team dynamics. And so early on, you start realizing, there are different personalities that are always necessarily not going to mesh, and there's going to be friction points. But you learn early to work through that. It's not easy starting out, especially that young. But you have coaches, and I had some really great coaches that were able to see what's taking place, address it early, and then allow us to work through some of these issues so we could become better teammates, which ultimately is to meet the goal of that team, and that's to have a winning season, whatever that may look like. So from the very first is becoming a good teammate, which was critical being in the military, not only enlisted, but even as an officer, as a leader. My goal was always to be a good team member. Yes, I'm going to lead, but I want to be a member of that team, whether it's platoon, company, battalion, be a contributing member, not just a leader directing and dictating. So for sure, the second part of that is building discipline and consistency was probably incredible as I, throughout the different echelons from, middle school through high school. And then that laid the foundation for the military and understanding that anything that you want to accomplish, like anything, you need discipline. If it's important to you and it's important enough, you're going to do that thing, whatever it is, to, continue to keep that bayonet sharp. The other piece is consistency. You're either consistently not doing something or you're going to consistently do it. And it's something that's always, stuck with me. And I think that's helped me through all these years, even now into my 50s, to be successful at where I'm at athletically is because I do the little things consistently. And those are building blocks to a strong foundation where I can go multiple levels high. And it's been, I think really, really important to get me to where I'm at.
Yeah, I think we have a fundamental misunderstanding as a culture of what discipline is, right? This idea that discipline is punishment, or this idea that discipline is rigidity, or this idea that discipline is hardness, when in reality, it's what you're describing, which is consistency is the building blocks to develop discipline and then to continue to develop it over time through sustained momentum, rather than trying to find motivation to be disciplined in any given moment. So you have to stack those moments through consistency in order to develop, maintain, and then sustain discipline over time.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And now that we talk discipline, there's something I've heard before, and it stuck with me, and I wish I could remember who said it. But there's two types of pain. There's pain of discipline, that's whether it's in athletics or preparing for the NCO or enlisted board. And then there's pain of disappointment. You get to that board or you get on that start line and you realize I'm not as fit as I should. I really wish I would, did these extra workouts leading up to this, or I didn't perform very well on that, military enlisted or NCO board or whatever the case may be. And so I always look at those opportunities because, yeah, there are times where I'm just dragging. I'm tired. And I tell myself, is this going to be a pain of discipline? Or do I want to overcome and not have that pain of disappointment when I am on that start line, or when I'm, in San Diego on the deck of the Midway and it's time to push off and I realize, wow, I wish I would have increased my volume, 10% the past 5 weeks to ensure I can make it, these 15, 16, 17 days of running every single day across the nation. So yeah, I always think of those things, the pain of disappointment and the pain of discipline. I'll take the pain of discipline every day.
I love that. That's a great framework. Leadership has become a through line on this series, and obviously it's a through line for the event itself and the organization at Team RWB. It requires the leadership team on their end to organize and execute this event, to provide the support fire for you guys along the way. But then on the team, you have 3 different teams. Which team are you a member of?
Red, Team Red.
You're on Team Red. So there's Team Red, there's Team White, and there's Team Blue. So all 12 of you have to come together, but then 4 of you have to come together kind of within your subunit, right? And everybody comes from a different background, right? There's a handful of you that served in the infantry or in SOF. There's a submarine officer. There's military police. There's all kinds of different people who served in different capacities, who therefore have different leadership styles, leadership approaches, leadership abilities, right? And you're all coming together. How has that manifested as you've begun your training and you're now 5-ish weeks out as of this recording? You mentioned earlier as an infantry officer, when you went from enlisted to officer, you understood like, hey, I've got a different path here. I'm not just an officer. I'm a little bit older than these guys. And so I've had that enlisted experience. And so I understand that I'm not just leading by dictating and directing, but I'm also participating. So how is that translated on Team Red and then on the entire team of 12 for you?
Yeah. And I'll back up just a little bit. So, For me, I wasn't able to be at it. The very first time we had a face-to-face meeting in December where the whole, Old Glory Ultra Relay team members got together, the leadership team. So, JJ, some of the others were there. And unfortunately, and just to say, it's not because that wasn't a priority, it very much was so. But, I race anywhere from, 27 to 34 times a year. And I'd had a planned, because I think it's, just like in the military, we have block leave. And, for me, my end of my racing year is always around the first week of December. So many months ago, I had a whole Italy vacation planned for 11 days. So there's no way to get out of it once that team meeting was established. So for one, that's why I wasn't there, if anybody is wanting to know. So for me, I need to immediately really introduce myself to all my fellow teammates virtually. So, we have the different platforms from IG group chats. We have Strava. So it's just real quick checks and giving people thumbs up motivation on their workouts. So initially it's for me to let my teammates know, hey guys, early on, I cannot be there. I apologize, and lay it down. This is the reason why this is a priority for me. And I assure you that I'm doing the work, because there in that December meeting was a time trial with the flag. And I hated to miss that, because there's something said about seeing somebody's capability and then hearing about someone's capability. So when you get to see that face to face, and you're getting to mesh and go through some of those trials and tribulations like they did in December, that's team building, and that's important, especially when you're going to endeavor an event like this. And so I really hated to miss that. So there's some things that I need to do. As soon as I got off the Italy tour, I immediately did my 5-mile flag assessment and uploaded that in, gave it to JJ, the leaders of and Sully, the chief staff of Team RWB, and then my teammates, and let them know, hey, I am putting in the work, so they could see, that I am actually serious about this, and that I'm actually capable, to do this. Because, as we said, it's two different things to see that in person, and then just hear about somebody's capabilities. So, and to your point, for our team and Team Red, and I will say I'm pretty proud of Team Red. Our combined age is 209 years old. We are the oldest. I don't know how we all are on one team, but that's going to bring a lot of experience, resiliency, and I'm pretty happy and proud, because they're super capable. I have Johnny, MF Glenn, and Mary, and and Zach L. So no, I'm excited to be part of that team and what they are. So, for us, we've had some small changes on Team Red as one of the other teams. Zach was our crew chief, but we had one of our members who was pregnant, so she had to pull out, rightfully so. And so Zach, no longer crew chief, jumps into our team. And so the very first thing is one, now all of us together are, making sure that we are providing input, some thoughts and ideas of not only that 8-hour rehearsal we had about 3 weeks ago, but how are we going to tackle this actually task in front of us, running across the U.S. So that leadership, one, is flowing. It's between us all, we all have different ideas and experiences that we're bringing to this, and we are providing that insight. And part of being a good leader is being a good listener. This truly is a military operation when you think about it. Amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. This is a logistic operation, much like a large-scale military. The tactics piece, that's the running. That's the easy part. That's what we're doing. But the logistics is the key. And so when you open the aperture up into now the greater team, and JJ, and Sullivan and Doc Vol, who are really, and of course the social media persons, those are those small team logistic personnel that, in their ways, are providing some great leadership. And while we have our ideas, they have, the larger aperture on how this is going to take place, to try to give us the maneuver space, if you will, to focus in on just running and our training. And so it'd be easy for all of us to just throw input and suggestions, but it's really allowing them and noticing, hey, if they need input, they require some, assistance, they're going to reach down to us. And just being available, for the media team, for instance, or JJ and Sully. So, yeah, it's really just kind of it's level set it itself, just based on the circumstances that we're all in.
Yeah, it's not easy, but the simplicity is built in, right? It's like any military campaign or operation. It might not be easy. The tactics might not be easy. The tasks themselves might not be easy, but it's as simplified as it possibly can be. And you already said it yourself, right? It's clear to you that really what I got to do is show up and run. That's the simple part. It might not be easy because you're running a very long distance at a very fast pace, but it's helpful to have those frameworks. And because we all come from the military community, that's an easy framework, a simple framework for us to understand, to say, okay, where do I fit in? What do I need to accomplish? What can I contribute? And then where do I step away and not contribute that thing and just focus on the running, or what have you, right? Back to the running and back to Team Red. You had a member who wasn't able to run, and so the crew chief stepped in to run. But is he still crewing the team? Like how did those dynamics shift?
Yeah.
What are the shared responsibilities between the four of you, and you bringing very very quickly removed experience from being an officer in the military? Like how did you fit into that? How did that go? How is it going?
Yeah. One, it was very beneficial for us to have our second, in-person team meeting at University of Health and Performance just, I don't know, 3 weeks or so ago. That had an opportunity now for team cohesion, because now we were given which team would be in. And that was my first opportunity to, in person, really meet, Team Red as well as the other teams. But I was really focused in on making some connections with Team Red. We all bunked together. So that was, that obviously makes it a lot easier. And then, of course, clearly we did an 8-hour rehearsal all together in the van rotating. And so you get to know each other, very quick there. And so, yeah, with Zach jumping down and becoming now a team member, it's really some shared responsibility. Now he is still, if you will, he's taken, information that's being handed down from, Roel, which is kind of an overarching crew chief, if you will, and then JJ and Sully, as that information in the backside, if you will, is pushed down, it's coming to Zach and he's filtering it out to us. So, it's dissemination information 101, just like you'd have it in any military organization. And then the great thing about it is, because he is a runner, he's eliciting feedback, because, Johnny, not that long ago retired, and myself, and the Zach's retired, and then Mary with incredible experience. It really just allows us to come in. But I would say, yeah, Zach is still taking lead, if you will, on information dissemination, and then open it up and saying, okay, hey, here's my plan on, for instance, run execution on order of march, right? Who's in the shoot first day one as we lay it out. Let's talk about, does this make sense? And so even down to the fact on, are we going to do 30-minute, 45, how are we going to do running relay rotations within our 8 hours? But that's just a starting point for communication. And then again, holistically together, we're coming up with an idea. So, again, so I think it goes down to Zach is really that feeder, and then he's disseminating that information. And then collectively as a group, we're coming in and talking about it. And it's worked out very, very well. And again, we'll see how it goes when we cross LD or line of departure, on May 2nd. But at least we have a plan. Like anything in the military, you start with a plan, first shot, and then you adjust fire as needed.
Yeah, I think what's particularly cool about this event, Johnny brought this up a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and it was an interesting moment. And it helped me reframe and see that, like, this event is not an ultra marathon for every individual that's running it. It is a relay, and it is a team event. Lindsay talked about this as well. Like, you're not just out there when you're running an ultra, 100 or a 50, you're out there by yourself. And if you have a crew crewing for you, they're helping you do what you need to do. But here, you're helping the team do what you all need to do, and they're all helping you do what they also need to do, right? And so it's this fully integrated approach for a very unique event that is different than anything any of you have ever done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, when I first talk about Old Glory Ultra Relay, well, when I first heard about it, it elicited a thought and a process and like, wow, okay, this is going to be demanding physically on the body, which it is. But even when I talk about the other people, initially, you're thinking, wow, okay, I got to run 2 hours, 15 to 17 miles a day. But when you really piece that out over the course of 8 hours, and you break it up relay style, it's a lot easier to digest. Now, it's a lot of moving parts and you got to be in sync, and it's hard to do timing, whether it's nutrition and recovery, driving, while also, rotating and preparing for your next run. But there's going to be a lot of rotations in our 8 hours, and there's a reason for that. We want to maintain a certain pace. We also want to limit breakdown, bodily function, impact resistance, and nutrition requirements when you're going for a long period of time. If it was just a 2-day, 3-day event, yeah, we could just go out there and push hour and a half, 2 hours at a time. But when you're talking multiple days, 15, 16 days, really being smart about it, being available every day, and creating, really looking at this as a true relay and not a set amount of time. Now we got 8 hours, but in that, how we break that up, you have to be smart about it. To just make sure you are available mentally and physically every day to do your best and to maintain paces.
How are you approaching nutrition and recovery for yourself on this event?
Yeah, so great question. One, so as an older athlete, I'm playing in the margins at all times. In other words, I am trying to maximize every little piece of performance and fitness enhancement that I can. The great thing is once I retired, I'm able to get like 2 hours extra sleep a night from, I was at 5:30, getting up at, 4:30 in the morning, having my first workout. And I've seen my recovery and performance skyrocket in these 10 months. So, and everyone will tell you, there's a sleep expert that is, provided advice to us, but sleep is a true performance enhancement. So the other piece is I'm always looking at, the calorie piece, so, the carbs, proteins and fats, where am I getting, how am I getting those, and when am I doing that? So luckily for me, I have a couple of great nutrition partnership and sponsors, but we're also, and Team RWB, through the Vitamin Shop, they're going to provide us with nutrition opportunities. So the way I look at, and since I race so much, I really can dial in nutrition. I know exactly, the golden hour, if you will, that first 30 minutes. As soon as you're done with a run, especially at Old Glory, it's immediately getting a certain amount of carbs. And that's anywhere from, there's numbers, and I'm not going to geek out about the numbers, but it's immediately getting those carbs back in, and hydration, electrolyte mix, and with some, fast acting, carbohydrate food. So think applesauce, banana, because I need to be ready in the next maybe 45 minutes to an hour to run again. And so during that, I am looking at fast digesting, quick carbs to ensure that I'm prepared as I go out. And then immediately after the race, now it's the proteins and the fats, as well as, getting those glycogen stores topped off for the next day, because running is very catabolic. And the most important thing you have to do is replenish the glycogen stores, the hydration with electrolytes, and then at the end, the proteins and everything else. So while we're sleeping, we are as much as possible repairing. So we are, set up for success the next day. So yeah, I tested a lot of it out on the 8-hour run, which gave a great snapshot. And again, with as much as I race, I really have nutrition and, I would say dialed in a 90% solution, 16, 17 days. That's going to be a difficult part. But yeah, for the most part, keep it clean, simple carbs, lean protein at the end of the run, and rinse and repeat, stay super hydrated.
What does participating in this event mean to you? You're very closely removed from retirement. You're in the GWAT generation. Obviously, we're going to be at the future site of the GWAT Memorial on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. when this race is finished. What does participating in this race mean to you?
Yeah, this is good because one, I'm truly, and I know some other members have said this, teammates have said it too, is it's truly being part of something much bigger than yourself. I race for myself and to inspire others. What I do is really individual, except for, in high rocks, I do doubles as well as solos. So most everything I do is, solo based. So, I, train alone for the most part, and I'm doing it for me and for my personal race. I'm putting a lot of my races and some really important competitions this year off to the side, because when I had the opportunity to be part of a team again, in the military, we are a team, you are a member of a team. And that was super fulfilling. As soon as I saw that email that came out from Team RWB, say, hey, do you want to be a part of history, legacy, right? And run across the US and I was like, one, to be able to say, as soon as I saw the email, I could do that. And I'm throwing my name in the hat. To be in that position, fitness wise and mentally and physically, is incredible. And then two, to be chosen. And then three, to be part of this. Because while, a lot of the headlines are to set a world record, that's really second, if not third order effects. Primary is to, to highlight veterans, the veteran, team RWB and mental and physical well-being, and to, gain donations of $1 million for, true veterans. And so when I think about this, I'm not only doing it for Team RWB and my also Old Glory Ultra Relay team, I'm doing it for all veterans, because this is going to draw awareness to veteran community. And ideally, it's going to generate a lot of different, funds and donations to support my fellow veterans. And then second, I really hope it just motivates some veterans who, the military got it right. Fitness is a backbone, a cornerstone. It is a critical part of military lifestyle. But unfortunately, when we get out, sometimes that takes a back burner. We think about investments, our financial future, and we always hear about, putting money away, whether it's TSP in the military or whatever the case may be. Well, why not put that same effort into our health and fitness, or our health and lifestyle, for our longevity? And that's what fitness does. And if this would motivate some fellow veterans who just, have stopped making time for fitness, and maybe they'll see this and they'll get motivated, and they'll walk, 3 times a week, maybe because they haven't done anything, or they'll decide, what, I can do, push-ups, air squats, lunges. I can do pull-ups on the tree. I'm going to do that twice a week. I'm going to do something to better my life. And yeah, and if in the grand scheme, that's really what we're, trying to do. Setting a world record is, like I said, third order effects. That's, a C goal. The ultimate goal is being part of this phenomenal opportunity to draw awareness to, veterans are still extremely capable. Granted, we see a lot of times in the media, or veterans who are broke, PTSD, high suicide rate. And that is important. It has its place, because we want to draw awareness to it, so we can ensure that there are funds and organizations focusing on that. But the other piece of that is, there's extremely capable veterans who did extraordinary things while in service, and they can still do extraordinary things now that they've hung up the uniform. And that's just being part of that is really, in my mind, gold.
Yeah, it's very easy for us to assume that we all don't need these reminders, right? But we do. We've had sustained combat operations over the course of the last 20, 30 years, fighting this war, and it has hurt a lot of people, and a lot of people have been hurt by it. And because those operations have been so sustained and so different from previous conflicts that our country has faced, we actually haven't had a time to rest and to reset and to understand that we live integrated lives, these back-to-back deployments, and then you get home and it's like, man, I need some time off and some time away. And then the next thing you know, some time turns into an entire lifetime. And we just need that reminder to say, like, hey, not everybody's gonna run and compete at this level, but you need to do what you're capable of where you are right now.
That's right.
And then also to understand that you're not fit for service anymore. You need to be fit for life, whether you have a spouse and children that you want to go do things with and stay alive for a long time, or just to be a healthy individual human being. We all need those reminders.
No, that's well said. That's 100%, accurate. Yeah, that's the very first piece. Yeah, as you said, is look where you're at now, and just make that small incremental improvement addition, because you're right. Yeah, this is an investment of life. You have families and other people that are relying on you, and you want to be able to live a longer, healthier, sustainable life. Yeah, you said it very well.
Yeah, I love it. All right, I want to start to wrap things up here. Be respectful of your time. You got 5 weeks left, ish, as of the recording for this race. I think when folks listen to it, there's only going to be a few weeks left until the race starts. What does the sprint, pun intended, look like for you and Team Red right now as you move from the end of March to the beginning of May to kick off from the USS Midway? What's left to do, and how are you approaching this final sprint?
Yeah, for me, I'm staying on my same, me personally, my same training path. So, I'm slowly ramping up volume. Volume now, I'm considered a low mileage guy, but high volume work, because not only am I running miles, but I'm also putting additional anywhere from 4 to 6 hour gym work, cross training work in there. And that is extremely important when you're getting to an event like this. It's very catabolic, very difficult, a lot of, strength work, time under tension. So that's to ensure I'm durable, especially being older, more durable for this event. So I'm maintaining. Just what I'll do is continue to increase slightly my volume, and ensuring that I am, right with nutrition, right with sleep. So I'm recovering, and I'm going to arrive there in San Diego fit for Team Red. What we're doing is we're continuing to talk over some of the different aspects of how we're going to execute this. Just little things to remember, as far little things like, hey, let's break down what a day is going to look like. Okay, hey, there's 8 hours of running, but oh, by the way, there's going to be an additional 2 hours bounding forward to our our run or rest overnight. Then, oh, by the way, we also have RV maintenance that we got to do, and then at that point need to sleep, then prep, and then probably drive another hour to the transition point for the next day so we can pick up the flag. So when with sleep, and you look at that, there's only probably 5 hours on a very conservative that are so-called downtime. Well, you might have to wash clothes, and we got to go refit at a grocery store. So one, we are really looking at that. How can we be, the most efficient? And we're cross-talking. And that's a key piece, crossing. Hey, when we thought about this. And so once we get all together in San Diego, we are 90% prepared, because you can't always be 100%. But what's really great about, veterans doing this, we're flexible, we're adaptable. That's just in our makeup as veterans. And we know things won't go exactly right, but we're going to do it with optimism, positive attitude, and we're just going to just fire and make it happen. So, so for me, it's just, continuing on my glide path, and then, look at a small little taper, if you will, leading into that final week, and arrive a few days early into San Diego, and just get ready to do this damn thing.
I love it. I love it. Cole, where can folks find you and follow along for your training and fitness journey?
Yeah, IG is probably the best bet, and it's under CJ CJ _DROSA, CJ DeRosa. Yeah, feel free to DM me. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I know I get to see some of my teammates in 2 weeks in DC for High Rocks North Americans. Zach's going to be there, and Jason's going to be there. So, and Johnny said he may even pop in just to see us. So it'd be good to all of us get together as we're competing in High Rocks in DC, and then then it's time to get busy.
Yeah, God forbid you guys make Johnny do some run and prep for this giant.
Hey, he's doing functional training out there. Yeah, no, he's good. He's ready.
He's the best. All
Yeah.
right, Cole, as you know, I end each episode with an open-ended question. What's on your heart and your mind for our community right now? Could be a piece of advice, something you want to get off your chest, or something you want to reiterate that we've talked about today. But Cole, what's on your heart? What's on your mind?
No, thank you. One, I would just say, hey, if you haven't gone back and listened to, Zach, Roel, and some of the others, they have some great insight at the end of theirs. One, hey, speaking, talking, don't stay in silence. So mine is going to be a little bit, and I've touched upon it. let's seize the day. I know that's, that's just one of those terms you hear, but I would say let's stop saying I'm gonna find time to get fit or to do something. Make time. As soon as you make time, it's going to happen. Because when you try to find the time, life will always get in the way. Got to take the kids to school. Someone called for work. The dishwasher broke. So carve out, make time, and let's just get moving and just take small steps. And I tell everybody who is trying to jumpstart their fitness again, keep it small. It's not about how much you do. It's about being consistent. If that's 2 days a week or 3 days a week, that's so be it. Don't go all out and try to run a mile or 5 miles. Start small. If you haven't ran in a while, let's take a few trips around the block, 3 days a week. Maybe 2 months, you want to start walk, jog. And the second thing is get something on the calendar. Maybe there's a local 5K. November's not too is a ways away. There's all kinds of races that come up in November in your community. Find something. The Spartan race, Team RWB provides free bibs, free races to Spartan races. And there are Spartan races damn near every other weekend throughout the United States. And there's a great Team RWB, Eagle Nation community at all these races. So, find something, put it on the calendar and start working towards it. Because we know what fitness does, just even a little bit emotionally, physically. It just makes us better prepared, more adaptable. It's going to make us feel good. It's going to just make us feel accomplished when we're doing things. And it'll jumpstart your day and your week. So again, I would say make time. Don't try to find time.
Yeah, I love that. I had about a couple of years ago, I started to have some lower back pain. It wasn't too serious, but it definitely felt to me like it could get serious. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm about to turn 37 here in 4 days. So I will have been 37 when this episode airs. And I'm like, man, mid-30s, got a two-year-old, 3-year-old, want to have some more kids. I was like, this back pain doesn't feel too bad, but it definitely could be if I'm not maintaining myself the way that I need to. And so I got back in the squat rack and I started small, right? I was like, and I played football and did all of that. So did a lot of like Olympic lifting and powerlifting style stuff when I was younger. And so I started small and I started like repping 135. And I had that tinge of guilt and shame of like, man, you're weak. Like you're not as strong as you used to be. And I just said, that's okay. This is where I am right now. And I'm repping 225 and I'm getting ready to start repping 245 here in a couple of weeks. And I'm just going to keep that going. And I'm not going to keep it going all the way to, right, standards. Cause I'm aware of like where I am, but again, I'm aware of where I am. And so I'm going to just keep doing the things that I can do, where I am at the capabilities that I have to sustain over time. So I love that anecdote of keep it small and don't judge yourself by some future standard. Judge yourself by the standard that you're able to execute right now and just keep stacking those moments.
100%.
I love it, brother. Appreciate your time. Excited to get on the road.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to it.
See ya.